Good morning, North Carolina. Good morning, South Carolina. Good morning, Georgia. And good morning, young people watching all over the United States. This week we have been international too. We've had people join us from British Columbia. People joined us from Ontario, and we had a few guests from the United Kingdom as well. We are grateful that you are joining us for our South Atlantic Conference Youth and Young Adults Current Events Discussion Forum. And it's a bittersweet day because it's our final day. It's our last day. And I'm a little sad because we have had a great time this week. Oh, here's our Canadian friend already, Donna Howell from Canada. We're grateful to have you here. She's checking in. Edna Bailey is checking in from Georgia. More and more people will be joining us in a moment. And we're also privileged to have soon our conference president, Elder William Winston, who will bring greetings. Elder Winston, are you ready for your greetings, sir?
Tell me when. I am ready as you are.
Okay, let me get you all set up. Elder Winston, the prestigious president of the South Atlantic Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, and also the chairman for the Office of Regional Coordinators, Regional Presidents. He leads that. Honored to have him here with us this morning. Mr. President, our crowd is building. Why don't you say a few words to welcome everyone here today and just give your feelings on our context, COVID-19, police brutality, and how young people can stay strong throughout it.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. Good morning. I am happy to be with you today. I am the same as Dr. Washington, kind of mixed feelings about camp meeting ending so quickly. Once we knew that we would not have camp meeting, we did not immediately decide that we would do virtual. We talked about it, prayed about it, and said, let's try this. And it has been a marvelous experience. It has gotten better and better each night. Today is our last weekday service, second Friday of camp meeting, and we have a virtual service on Sabbath morning that we will broadcast from the West End Church here in Atlanta. And then we will do a virtual ordination service. There'll be a few of us at West End, but we will lay hands on and anoint from afar this time. It's going to be a little different. We have invited the pastors and clergy spouses in Atlanta to join us on tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock. And then camp meeting will conclude tomorrow right after that service, probably about 5 o'clock. It has been good enough to me to want to extend it, but I'm not going to do that. We'll let everybody exhale, but it has gotten better each night. We have prayed and asked the Lord for no technical difficulties, no storms to knock our power out, and He has blessed us tremendously. The other ministries going on, youth and young adult, children's ministry, Sabbath school ministry has gone on as well, all virtually, workshops. It has been a marvelous thing. The evening youth services at 6 o'clock. I'm one of those people who knows, in my heart and in my mind that God can do anything. And when He does it, He surprises me. It's like, wow, God, look what you have done for us. But it has been tremendous. It has been a wonderful thing. We don't know. And I just said this to our staff yesterday. We don't know when we're going to open. We were told in April that at the beginning of May, this COVID was going to kind of peak and go down and then level off. So we set an opening of June, first Sabbath of June. Didn't happen. We have pushed it back to the middle of July, a couple of weeks to try to see what the 4th of July does. But now it looks like that it would be August or later before we open, because this wave is coming back. I had a vacation schedule and I had planned to go out of state. But we talked yesterday. We didn't settle it as an office administration. But we're saying for people who go on vacation during the month of July, if you go out of state, and now we can't say out of state because Georgia is one of those red states now. But if you go out of state, you need to self-quarantine before you come back to work. That's how serious it is. So if you want to know about South Atlantic and when we'll open up and go back for our churches, can't even tell you, can't even give you a date. We have been here in the office since the day after Memorial Day, and we stagger our staff, and we bring people in the morning and people in the afternoon. But this thing is ugly, and from the doctors that are here, Dr. Milton Brown and others who have told us about this thing is going to hang with us for a while. So our number one priority is safety, to make sure that our members are safe, that their families are safe, that the people here in the office and our pastors, safety is the number one priority. I will tell you this, I felt so good. The other day, I told you that we're going to have an ordination service on tomorrow at West End. So we went to a rehearsal at the West End Church on Wednesday of this week. And as I drove up into the church lot, all of these signs on the street, COVID-19 testing, free testing. And right on the back parking lot of the West End Church, they had it set up with the drive-through for COVID testing for that community. I was just my chest was about to explode that the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and people don't think Adventist Church is doing much. Nobody seems to be, well, not nobody, but a lot of people don't seem to be happy that we're not doing. Seventh-day Adventist Church is out there. You need to know that. Whoever says they're telling they're mistaken. West End had COVID testing, and I got out of my truck and was trying to slip into the church, and I heard my name called, Pastor Winston, come get tested. I said, what? I said, come get tested. Come on, you can do it right now. I said, I'll be back. So I went into the church for the rehearsal, and they said, oh, we just getting started. You got time, go. And I went out on the parking lot and walked up to the tent, and they tested me for COVID-19, took the information, got my phone number. They said in 3 days, you will get your results. I'm waiting for 3 days now. I want to know what the results are. And then I went back into the church, and there were maybe a dozen of us, a dozen and a half, participating in the rehearsal. And I said, gentlemen, ladies, you need to go out on this back lot of the West End Seventh-day Adventist Church and be tested. And I think all of us did. All 18 of us who were there have been tested. And all it takes is one person to test positive, and we shut the office down. We're serious about this. We're not playing with this thing. We'll shut it down, and everybody will be going to quarantine. We have not had any difficulties thus far. We check temperatures. Everyone in the office does not have to wear a mask, but you see my mask some here. When we step out into the hallway, we've got to wear a mask. I wish I had some better answers than that. I wish I knew, but I have told our pastors and our churches that we were going to open the 18th of July. I don't see that happening. I see August sometime. And back in March, April, I said, just be honest, I thought that it would be September before we got back into our churches. And that kind of looks like where it's going to be, unless we have this another spike that's happening now. So pray for us, be safe, wash your hands. You know, I'm a granddaddy, so I'm a lecture to the grandkids and the kids, but take care of yourself and protect the old people, protect your grandparents and protect your parents. Make sure that you don't expose them. The other thing is this: the ministry that you do, the ministry of young adults. I had to preach last Sabbath for camp meeting. Again, a virtual service, and I made some references to some of the events of history. the Central Park Five, the Scottsboro Boys, those things. A lot of things that have happened in this country and in the black work and the racism and the setting on fire of Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and all of that. Um, a lot of the things that were happening, Emmett Till, the people who sparked these racial awareness issues were young people. All of those people I'm talking about, Central Park Five,
Wow.
Scottsboro Boys, they were teenagers. They were teenagers. The ones who started this church were young adults. Ellen White and James White and that, they were young adults. And it's going to be the young people who are going to finish this work and usher us into the kingdom of God. I'm excited. The camp meeting virtual has gone so well. I've gotten good reports. I've seen good things from tech people who were telling me about how they go. But it's great. I would love to be together hanging out in Orangeburg. I love to be going to the snack bar and to the water park and to
me too.
the rink and all of those things. I wish we had some horses. Maybe we got to get some horses for next year. I wish all of that were there, but we have to go with what we've got, and this is it. But it has been tremendous. Dr. Washington, thank you and your team and your guests for what you have done this week. Thank you for the young people and young adults who've been on here. I'm depending upon you all to finish the work. I want to go to heaven. I never thought I'd get this old this quick, but here I am. But Jesus will come soon, and you all will be the ones to usher in that great day. We thank you for what you're doing. Welcome to all of our guests. It's good to see you. May God richly bless you and keep you and protect you from sickness and disease and from hurt, harm, and danger. And we look forward to the day when we can hang out some and just this thing will be behind us, and we'll be telling tall tales about it. But right now we've got to be extra careful and prayerful that God would bless us. Thank you, Dr. Washington. Have a great day.
Mr. President, your comments are live on our South Atlantic page, on our South Atlantic website and YouTube. And so thank you for taking this moment to speak to the young people, the young adults, even our friends in Canada. Thank you for speaking to them. We appreciate you, Mr. President. You're in our prayers with all that you have to do. And we hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful day.
And let me say to our friends in Canada, we're about to send our president back to you. Elder Dan Jackson is retiring in a week. And he tells us he's coming back. He's going back to Canada. So you all make sure you all treat him right. He's been a blessing to this church, the North American Division. He wants to go back to Canada. I don't know why, but he wants to go back to Canada and go home. We've tried to get him to stay. We've tried to get him to work longer, but he's retiring and he's headed home. So thank you for loaning him to us. He's been a blessing, and we love him.
Elder Winston, one of our Facebook viewers says, thank you so much for bringing the SAC camp meeting to us. Stay safe and be blessed, Elder Winston. We love you.
Thank you. Love you too. God bless you. Have a great day. I'm gonna mute. I've got about 2 or 3 more things to do in the office, but I'm gonna listen in if it's all right, and then I'll just do like the Lone Ranger and ride off into the sunset. All right. Okay.
Thank you, Elder Winston.
Bye.
All right. Well, we are back. That's our conference president here in South Atlantic Conference. But that's not our only guest today. We are privileged to have Pastor Daryl Hoy with us today, a friend of mine, a longtime colleague. We go way back, and she is currently the youth director for the Nevada-Utah Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. That's a conference that I used to pastor at before I came to South Atlantic Conference. Good morning, Pastor. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fantastic. How about you?
I'm doing well. Now, let me make something perfectly clear to everybody. Pastor Hoy is 3 hours behind us. So she got up early today to bless us here in the South Atlantic Conference. Let's give her a virtual hand clap. We appreciate her. I know the people from Emmanuel Temple know her well in Durham, North Carolina. Elder McLean jumps on all the time. And so we will hear more from them a little later on. Pastor Hoy, all week long, we have been talking current events. We have been talking about things that are happening in our world and how the young people respond to it. Before we get all into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your personal history, etc.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And Dr. Washington, thank you for the invitation to be with you all today. I usually just describe myself as, I'm a crazy girl from Yazoo City, Mississippi. Grew up post-civil rights there in a small community where we got along, where people loved everybody, and just a good place to grow up. I attended, my family moved to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So part of my life, Mississippi, part of my life, Louisiana. Graduated there and went to Duke University for undergrad. And a shout out to my Emmanuel Temple family and to our friends at Gethsemane. Just a beautiful church there that embraced young people, and pivotal point in my life that I will never forget. So God bless Emmanuel Temple. After graduating from college, I worked for the Children's Defense Fund. I graduated with a degree in public policy, and so I've had an interest in justice and in child policy. And so I worked there as an organizer for the Children's Defense Fund. I work with both community as well as college students. We opened or put a new spin on freedom schools that were from the 60s, kind of brought that back with a modern day context. And after working with the Children's Defense Fund, I had a life tragedy, went back home to help raise family, my nieces and nephews, and then went to seminary at Andrews and was there for 3 years. Pastored in Baltimore, Maryland, and also ran a nonprofit in Baltimore that had a Bible-based job training program, a 200-member youth service corps, and a program called Dinner with a Doctor that was a health ministry. From Baltimore, I went to Central States Conference. I pastored there. And shout out to my Topeka and my Leavenworth families. And then served as community service director, also served as assistant youth director, then youth director. And now I'm here in Nevada-Utah Conference doing the job that I absolutely love to do, and that is ministering with young people. So just excited to have that privilege.
Awesome. And what a resume. What a history. You've been all around the world. The president made a comment in the private chat, Durham, North Carolina, that's his home.
Okay.
And so you are officially a South Atlantic homegirl. And I grew up in Greensboro, not far from Durham. Well, as you know, the year began with everyone talking about their plans for 2020 and coming up with different catchphrases and 2020 vision. And then COVID-19 hit. The heartbreaking thing is over 125,000 people have died in the United States from this dreaded disease. And it looks now like in the United States, the numbers are going up, so much so the European Union is talking about banning travel from the United States to Europe. Personally, Pastor Hoy, when it hit, how did it hit you? How did you have to adjust? What has it been done for your mental health? And then once you talk about how it hit you, why don't you share with young people and young adults just tips that you have discovered in dealing with social distancing and so much death and all the stress that comes along with COVID-19?
Sure. Even before COVID-19, we lost Kobe at the end of January, and it was a big shock to our nation. And I think especially to younger generations, even if you weren't a Lakers fan, you still have respect for Kobe. And so, that hit us. And then right after that, we've got COVID-19, and it's changed the way we live. And so it's changed the way that I live. It's hard to go from being around people to not being around people. And then when you see people, not being able to touch and hug, and I'm a hugger. And so not being able to hug people and touch them, it's just against the norm of who we are as human beings. And then knowing so very little about COVID-19, it is a novel virus, meaning there's not a lot that we know about it. And what we're learning is still changing, because if you remember when this first hit, they said, don't wear masks. And then it was wear masks.
Right.
It was just wash your hands, and they weren't really saying don't come in contact with people. And so much has changed for it. For me personally, there were life interruptions. I have family that's in Louisiana and Mississippi and DC, and my plans to visit them have not been, it hasn't happened just because I don't want to spread the virus. I also have 4 states in the US to visit, and I would have visited all 50 states. So in April, I'd planned to visit Alaska with friends, and then I was going to Hawaii in September, and Montana, and then Maine is the last one. And so that's not going to happen just this year because of COVID. And then ministry has really changed. When COVID hit, we were about to do our team leadership program for our Pathfinders. And we made the conscious decision, because we didn't know much about this virus, and it was our desire to keep people safe, that we canceled our TLT. And that's one of the highlights for me.
I can relate.
You actually get to be around the youth as opposed to the youth leaders. So, so some significant changes. For me, just the lack of contact with people. I'm single, so I'm here in my house by myself.
Oh, help her, God.
And I love Zoom, and I hate Zoom. So it's just been incredible. If you told me this would ever happen in my lifetime, I don't think I would have believed you. I know, especially for young people, it's probably hard not finishing your school year, especially for those who are graduating, senior trips, your graduation ceremony. I know that's had to been difficult. And I think one of the things that I really want to say to young people at this time is making sure you're okay, that it's okay not to be okay, but get help. And just consider other people. I think one of the biggest things that Americans haven't understood about COVID-19 is that it's not about you. And from a Christian standpoint, we love our neighbors as ourselves. And that means even if you don't think COVID-19 is real, you still treat it as if you're a person who could be carrying the virus, and you want to protect other people. Some of the things that we've done in ministry for this is we do courageous conversations. We talk about things that our church doesn't talk about. Some of our courageous conversations have been sexual abuse, and I was so excited with your topic yesterday, teen dating violence, suicide, race, pornography. We're going to do homosexuality coming up, addictions. But some of the things that we kind of shy about talking about in church. But for me, I believe if there's any place that we should be able to discuss issues without judgment and receive help, it's the church.
Yeah.
Jesus was all about liberating people, and not just from sin, but helping them process life and be able to live life to the full. He said that I come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And so we talk about different issues, and we did for our teens and our young adults when COVID hit. We did stress and anxiety, and we also did depression. We've talked about those things to help process, to make sure people had resources, and to give people just a way to say, this is where I am right now.
Awesome. Awesome. Seems like you're doing a lot of good work in your conference and with the young people, and good work at just holding it together. This is all unprecedented, you know what I mean? And to be able to hold it together as a single person. Can you talk to singles right now who may be watching, single young adults? How you keep from going crazy, Pastor Hoy? How do you not turn into Tom Hanks and Wilson on Castaway during this time? I mean, talk to some single people out there.
I think one of the things that you have to do is actively seek community because you're not in community. So you want to actively seek community. So my best friend from college, we do a Sunday Zoom where we're talking to one another and just cackling and being ourselves. Then making sure I'm still communicating with family. Keeping up. My mom's miles away, and want to make sure my mom is doing all right. Making sure that I'm in touch with my brothers and sisters, my nieces and nephews, my cousins, them, and everybody. Just trying to make sure that I'm seeking community. It's been a beautiful in terms of just processing. There's some people who are more introverted, and being by themselves is not, a big deal. But for a long period of time, like COVID, I would say even to the introverts, make sure that you are seeking community. It might not be with a big crowd, but with one or two people. Make sure you are letting people know that you're okay. One of the tragedies that we had here in my conference was a nurse was found dead after several days, almost a week, and died of COVID related. But the tragedy was that it took a week. And so for the singles, make sure you are seeking community. And for those of you who are part of families, check on your singles. Make sure that they are doing okay. And then for the singles, the other thing I say is be a blessing to somebody else. So for me, going out to grocery shop for senior citizens is something that I do to help deliver meals. That's something that I've been doing just because I feel like I'm probably, I don't want to sound like I don't take this seriously, like I couldn't get the disease, but I don't have the conditions that most seniors have. And there are people who have other conditions like heart conditions, diabetes, and other things that make them more susceptible to COVID-19. And so I feel like I could play my part by helping with grocery shopping and delivering meals. And I would say to singles, if you want to get out and not just be stuck in the house, then go volunteer in a capacity like that. Be safe, take the precautions, wear your mask, a face shield, wash your hands, and go out and serve.
Yeah, it's amazing that you before this hit, you'll hear young adults, you'll hear singles say, "Well, all I need is Jesus." But one of the things that's happened during COVID-19 is that we have come to the realization we need people too. We miss being around people. We miss interacting with people. God says, love him and love people. Mm-hmm. So church, the idea of church has actually become more valuable. We're seeing numbers online that are higher than church attendance because people still crave people. They want to be around people. They want to be near people. So you need more than just yourself and God. I've seen t-shirts, all I need is me and Jesus. No, for young adults and seniors, you need people and all generations of people. You miss that interaction. Their grandparents can't be around their grandkids. They miss that, and so it goes a long way. Mr. President, did you want to comment on that, or are you just still listening in? Let me unmute you. All right, you have to unmute yourself. You're muted right now. There's a little mute thing on the top of your thing. Okay. Well, we'll come back to you. It's your first time on StreamYard, and we'll come back to you. There's a little mute thing on top of your picture, and you'll see it on the bottom, and you can unmute yourself and comment on that. And as soon as you're ready, we'll bring you back in. So people do need people, and thank you for sharing that.
We were created for community, and
Yeah.
I hope people realize that we were created for community.
Yeah, and we definitely are. All right, we're going to pivot from this a little bit, and we see in the news right now that there is a divide on how we should be even handling COVID-19. It's amazing to me. People don't want to protest for Black people's rights, but they do want to protest to not wear a mask. They'll fight you over that. Okay. What are I see, Mr. President, I see you unmuted. I see a little smile on your face too. What are your thoughts on that?
That excellent thought, and I was listening very carefully. I'm printing something here in the office, and of course, my printer in the office runs out of ink, and then the big printer won't print. So I was between a rock and a hard place. Good comments. Good, excellent comments. I have a couple of words that I don't like to use, but since you're all adults, I will use them. Stupid and ignorant. Those are two words that just pop in my head when I see people out and about that don't wear masks, that want to fight somebody to get in a building. My children and my grandchildren, and now I got little great grandchildren, but they're concerned about us. They said same thing they said to us. You all don't go to the store. If you need something, we'll go to the store for you. We of course didn't do that because they had senior citizen hours at 7 o'clock in the morning. We beat the rush, but we appreciate you. We love you. We want to be around as long as we can and see our grandchildren grow up and great grandchildren till Jesus comes. And what you express, Pastor, is powerful. It's just people caring about people. And for those who, and excuse my verbiage, for those who I think are just ignorant and stupid, I just have to pray for them because they've got this macho thing, this dare I say Trumpism that I'm invincible. What I heard the other day from, again, I listen to a lot of news and medical people, but they are saying that these young people now who are testing positive, but who are not having serious symptoms, that when they get older, should time last, I pray the Lord will come. But if they get older, they're going to have severe lung issues from the COVID that they are playing around with now. They're going to have some serious lung issues down the road because the damage is being done now, even though they may not even feel it. So thank you for what you're doing and protecting us. And this is going to pass, but not tomorrow. And not next week. It's going to be with us for a while. So thank you for what you do and for encouraging other people to do the same.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pastor Hoy, the politics of the mask, the divide and how we deal with this. Let's talk about it.
So in America, we are very big on our rights. We are very big on the freedom of different things. That's just part of who we are as Americans. But we have to realize when my freedom infringes on somebody else or puts someone else in danger, then it can't be about me. It's got to be about other people. And so even if you don't like wearing a mask, I mean, it's hard for me to breathe wearing that mask, but when I think about it, my mask protects you, your mask protects me. And so I want to make sure that I'm not passing anything on to someone else because, again, there are lots of people who are walking around who are asymptomatic. They have COVID. They don't know they have COVID. They don't have the symptoms. In fact, a lot of the churches that opened, and I think in the beginning was a lot of non-evident churches that opened back, and they had to shut down very rapidly. And it was because there were people who didn't even know they were carrying the virus, and they're infecting other people. And so life as we've known it has to change, and it has to be about us saying it's more than about me. It's about other people. Even when churches reopen, Dr. Winston, you talked about Dr. Milton Brown, organic chemist and a medical doctor whose job is to help make medical treatments to fight viruses and things like that. He talked with my conference as well. And the things that he said about this virus and the fact that there's no cure for it, there's no vaccine, then it says that, to me, then protect people, do your best to make sure you're not part of the problem, but part of the solution. And that's what I'm saying to everybody, young and old. Be part of the solution and not be part of the problem. Wear the mask. It's not going to kill you. Wear the mask.
Yeah.
And Pastor Washington, I'll shut up after I say this.
No, Mr. President, this is valuable. Go right ahead.
My wife tapes the news for me whatever time I get home. ABC, NBC, CBS, every evening. I watch 3 newscasts. I watch CNN, and I look on the screen and I see all that's going on. But then my phone rings, and it's one of my pastors saying I had a 52-year-old elder who just died from this COVID yesterday. 52 years old. A young man who was in college with my daughter, dead.
Yeah.
Dead. From COVID. So it, after the news, after the network and all, when your phone rings and you hear of somebody that somebody who's a part of this church, who's working for the Lord, who lost their battle, it makes it very, very real and very, very difficult to deal with. That's all. I'm stopping.
Hey, we appreciate it, Mr. President. And if we just did what we were supposed to do, we would be in the space of other countries who have flattened the curve, who are on the other side of this. Remember when Italy was the hot spot? That's not the case anymore, because they did what they were supposed to do. We have freedoms, but sometimes it can be our worst enemy. Let's go ahead and pivot to something else. We talked about the politics of the mask. You would think after all the protests, after everybody being caught on camera, certain things would start to subside. Unfortunately, it's like more and more things are starting to happen. Just yesterday, 3 officers were fired in Wilmington, North Carolina, after it was revealed that they had racist comments towards Black people and also suggested a race war, that it's time to start exterminating Black people. Pastor Hoy, when you see this after George Floyd, when you see this after Rayshard Brooks, when you see this after Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, and you think we're making progress and changing the narrative, but we're really not surprised because evil's persisting, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think we have to understand that racism is systemic. It's part of a system. It's not something that it's 1 or 2 bad apples. Chris Rock has a stand-up routine where he talks about what's a bad apple, but it's not just 1 or 2 bad apples. It's a whole system. And so I watched the movie Just Mercy, and a lot of you probably watched the movie Just Mercy. And at the end of it, Brian Stevenson is talking, and he's saying that the opposite of poverty is not wealth, it's instead it's hopelessness, or he's talking about what are the things that allow the conditions to prevail. And part of my background is civil rights movement history. It's one of my minors from college, and it's something that I teach to young people about how do you make change and what is power. And one of the things that we have to do is not give up. We are not as far as we want to be, but we're not where we used to be. And yes, there is a whole system that still exists. But the thing that's giving me hope right now is that young people of all races are saying, nah, not on my watch.
Right.
That has given me so much hope. A couple of weeks ago, I did AY for Nueva Esperanza, one of our largest Hispanic churches in Utah. And the young people asked me to talk to them about George Floyd and how that could happen in America. And they were appalled. The same thing as when we first saw the kids of people who were trying to flee to America locked in cages. It wasn't just a Hispanic issue. The young people in my conference, Black, white, Tongan, Filipino, they came and they were just like, how is this happening in America? And so I believe that justice is something, that sense of justice and right is something that God places in us because it's part of God's character and we bear his image. And so I talk to my young people when they're just upset and they're upset about the church not speaking out about it. I say, you are the church. And the fact that you're speaking about it means that something is going to happen. Don't wait for other people to do something about it. It's not something that they do. It's something that you do and we do and I do. And so I have, as bad as the situation is, and even though it infuriates me, even though, it makes me just want to get out and do something, and sometimes it just makes me want to yell, there is this hope that I have never felt before because I see young people of all races coming together saying, we want to do something about it. And my prayer is that older generations will put behind some of the, how do I say it? The hurt of the past. And I realize that there is hurt, but extend the olive branch and be willing to work with our young people for this issue. Now, I'm in a conference where, it's not predominantly African American. I have pastored in a regional conference. I grew up in a regional conference, but even our regional conferences are changing in terms of the demographics. As you look at younger generations, most of the young people that I pastored, even in Central States Conference, they were biracial couples. They were not just one race couple. And so we've got to be able to talk about race in a context that does not alienate, but rather builds coalition and helps people say, it's not your struggle, it's our struggle.
Excellent point of view. Excellent point of view. The surprising thing for me in the Wilmington case is the vitriol of some of our public officials who have just this disdain, for Black people. I believe we all need to come together. But the reason why Black Lives Matter is so relevant is that we have to address what's going on systematically with Black people. Now, when all people address it, it's very effective. But we have to put a laser-like focus on what's going on. As at a deer conference, there's not a booth talking about lions' rights. There's just not. Okay, the deer are trying to get the lions off them, and they're trying to make that address. And so we have to focus on what's going on with Black people. We have a comment from YouTube. One of my colleagues, Teresa Posey, she says, "Amen. We are a big part in and of the church," and I do agree with that. And the church has to have a voice as we move forward. Well, our last topic, go ahead.
Let me just say, the way things change is through power. And power does not give itself up. And so you have to organize for power. And so, I agree that Black people have to be on the forefront of changing things for Black people. But part of our power, if you don't have the money power, then you got to have the people power and coming together as coalitions. One of the beautiful things of the civil rights movement, it wasn't just Dr. Martin Luther King. In fact, we know that most of the work was done by young people, and most of the churches didn't get involved until parents saw their kids going to jail. They were willing to go to jail. And that's when, most of the adults and even the churches started getting involved, when young people started going to jail over something they believed in. And so I just really want to say the beautiful thing about it is we've got to have lots of voices talking about it. And we've got to be able to come together in a coalition that builds power, and that's how you change things. And for this, there's got to be an overhaul of our political system, and we've got to talk about how do we change our justice system in this country, because it has never worked for Black and brown people.
Mr. President, while we have you here, I want to ask you a quick question. Can you talk about Durham back in the day and what we're seeing now, similarities, differences? Can you share some insight on that?
Durham was also a Black Wall Street. Sometimes if you Google Black Wall Street, you come up Durham, North Carolina. Durham had a lot of influential, well-to-do people. It was a financial capital, a capital in the Black community, Black bank, Black insurance company. Durham was a good place to grow up in, but there was even the divide among the Black people. There were Black people who lived over here.
Wow.
And the rest of us who lived over here. But we had North Carolina Central University, which was North Carolina College then, and an education facility. A lot of the cities where you have Black educational facilities, whether they're HBCU or they have a strong influence in the community. Across North Carolina, we had A&T and Shaw and St. Aug and Johnson C. Smith, and all across North Carolina, there were Black schools there. And it was the young people who marched. I remember being in high school, and I don't want to go back too far because I don't want to. I remember them coming to a rally to get students to march, non-violent protest to march from the campus of NCC, which it was the North Carolina College, to downtown. That was in the days where they would sick dogs on you and stuff like that. But they came to our high school, and the underclassmen, they would not let march. They would only take the seniors. And I have never forgotten this. They said, do not have a pencil in your pocket. Do not have a paper clip in. Do not have anything sharp on you, because they will charge you with carrying a concealed weapon. A pencil, a ballpoint pen, a paper clip, that they were just looking for something to do charges with you. But I do remember, and this is just history bears this out. Dr. Martin Luther King came to NCC and spoke one night. I remember sitting in the gymnasium. I was still in high school, sitting in the gymnasium and hearing him speak that night in Durham, North Carolina. The day he was killed in Memphis, he was shot to death. He was supposed to be in Durham, North Carolina.
Wow.
He had an appointment, and he canceled it to go to Memphis to march with the striking garbage workers. Otherwise, he would. Now, had that not happened, what would history be like? Different.
Wow.
Just that one incident where he made the decision, I need to go to Memphis. Jesus said, I must needs go to Samaria. There are places that you need to go and things you need to do that are pivotal in history. But instead of coming to Durham, he went to Memphis. And of course, you know the rest of the story with the Lorraine Motel and all. But young people, young college students, the protest in Greensboro at the lunch counters, college kids, they were not afraid, and they took some beatings and they took some whippings, but they did it. Yeah. Wow. So North Carolina was a big part of it, and we as Seventh-day Adventists, God has given us another opportunity to step up.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing that insight, Mr. President. As we wrap up today, I want to address something very, very big. Um, we can't abandon spirituality and God in our pursuit of justice. One of the most disturbing things I'm hearing more and more, well, all y'all do is pray, as if pray is some passive, negative thing, when it's actually connecting us to the most powerful being in the universe. We are not humanists. We cannot present ourselves as the ultimate answer. And so, very briefly, Pastor Hoy, how can we connect our spirituality to this fight? It doesn't have to be one or the other, but I think that we're giving up on something really important if we're not connecting to God in these times. Pastor Hoy.
I think I mentioned earlier, justice is part of God's character. And I think our passion for justice flows from God. Martin Luther King, one of his greatest speeches, he said, the moral arc of the universe swings towards love and justice. And for us not to realize that it is deeply rooted into God and to think that we can do this on our own, I think is, like you said, a huge mistake. Just like I put the perspective of racism and disease and all of that, I put it in perspective. God tells us we wrestle not against flesh and blood. And we've got to realize that the things that happen around us, there's a sin problem in this world, and it's a result of sin. And the solution to sin is Jesus Christ. I'm so glad to know that the battle is already won. And the things that we deal with on this earth, we have to experience, we have to go through. But the ultimate hope is in Jesus Christ. Yeah. And our ultimate goal is to be in line with the will of God. And so I have to just, from my personal experience, I've experienced life without God and I've experienced life with God, and with God is so much better, so less challenging. Not that they're not challenges, but it's not on me to figure it out. It's on God. And so I just want to say, the church may not speak about it. Your particular church might not say anything about justice, but it doesn't mean that it's not important to God. And if you read Isaiah 1:17, it's a command. God says, learn to do good and to seek justice and to speak up for the rights of the vulnerable. God tells, it's a command. When he says he's shown you, a man, and what has the Lord, told you to do? It's not a suggestion. It's not a plea. It's a command for those of us who know God to speak up and to do something. And so I just want to say, even if you don't see the people around you saying anything, you are the church. And so stop waiting for someone else and start doing it. Start talking about it. Start doing something. Figure out who your council people are. Become involved with civic. Do your civic duty. And make sure that you are changing your world. You have a circle of influence. Make sure that you are influencing the people around you. And here's the thing that I don't think people understand, or I think they do understand, and that's why we don't get more done. Justice requires sacrifice. If you are going to stand up for justice, there are going to be some things that you have to put aside in order to do it. You might not be able to watch your favorite TV show every week because you got to do something about justice. And so it does require sacrifice. And if you're serious about it, then you make the sacrifices. And I think we'll see even greater change. Watch the Eyes on the Prize series. Learn a little bit more about the movement. Understand that marching is not the only thing. And most marches are symbolic. You've got to be engaged in civically to make change. Economics also makes a big difference. Stop spending your money on frivolous stuff and start saving your money to do things and gain economic power. You know, understand that there's a lot in the world to distract us from our purpose and live purposefully.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. President, I'm going to give you the final word. You have the final word, Mr. President.
I just want to say, don't get so sanctimonious that you think that nobody's doing anything but you. I've got 7,000 who have not
bowed the knee.
don't ever think that it's nobody but you. You are so wrong. There are people out here doing stuff every day. Praise God for it. Thank you. I've enjoyed being with you today.
Well, we'll end it on that. Listen, I thought the president was about to preach. I thought so. I got excited on that. 7,000. But we've had a good discussion today. I am grateful that we have had Pastor Daryl Hoy from the Nevada-Utah Conference joining us here at camp meeting. After we're done with this, Mr. President, we'll take it to the snack bar and get her a virtual veggie dog, hook her up with some chips and something to drink over there. We've been honored to have you today. Thank you so much. We've also been honored to have our president, Elder William Winston, coming in, giving us some great insight and blessing the young people. We thank God for him and his leadership during the virtual camp meeting during this time. Thank you so much, Mr. President. It's my honor to serve you all this week as youth director. We've had a great week in the Lord. All of these discussions can be found on the South Atlantic Conference Facebook page and on the South Atlantic Conference website. Feel free to look at those, sacsda.org or SACSDA1 on Facebook. Also, you can find other things like Sister Eula Winston preaching last night. You can find that. You can find all the other pastors preaching.
Dr. Donovan Washington preaching last Sunday night.
Hey, God is good.
It's all
God is good. You can find all of that, and we will be able to enjoy this rich camp meeting. Thank you for joining us. Let me put a plug in for the prayer line, South Atlantic. Prayer line starts today. As soon as we get off this, prayer line is going on. You can find that information on the South Atlantic Conference website, sacsda.org, and jump on the prayer line and give your heart to God. Tonight, we're our final night of youth camp meeting worship. We'll have one of our principals preaching, Paula Sanders Blackwell, preaching tonight at 6 o'clock for the youth service. And then at 7 o'clock, we have our adult service following right after that. You can find the whole schedule on South Atlantic website. Well, let's pray a quick prayer of blessing. We'll leave. Father, thank you for allowing us to speak to young people on current events today, and bless us as we move forward. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Thank you for joining us at camp meeting today. And never forget, if God be for us, who can be against us? Amen. God bless you all.